it seems like it's nonstop. We're with the climate change rhetoric hearing on the mainstream media. It's like a Goebbels propaganda machine. We just keep repeating over and over again, as though they're trying to program into the minds of the public this ideology of climate change. So I think it's just incumbent on citizens such as myself to push back against that. I think there's a lot of motivation to push the climate change theory, considering all the money that can be made through the trading of carbon credits, and also the potential for use of the climate change alarm as an excuse to implement some sort of climate lockdowns along the lines similar to the COVID lockdowns, such that where people are required to stay in their homes because of all the traveling that they otherwise would do would emit all this carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, further worsening this supposed climate crisis. So once again, it is the age-old motivation of money and power. So it's money from the trading of climate credits and power over the people using COVID. Using climate change as an excuse to implement some potential lockdowns. So that's why I think it needs to be questioned. I think anytime you have a narrative being pushed over and over again, it's important to question those sorts of things, considering, especially when you just keep hearing it from the same entities of big government, big science, big academia. Anytime you keep hearing the same thing over and over again from those entities which already have so much power, where the potential of corruption is so great. I think it's incumbent on everybody to question those what's coming out of those entities, because they have some kind of skepticism about what their motivations might be. And so I think when you look at the climate change theory, you wonder. You notice how they always seem to rely on the confirmation bias and the argument from authority, instead of some solid research that is considered scientific. Now, for something to be considered scientific, it needs to be falsifiable. But how is climate change falsifiable? If something is to be falsifiable, there needs to be some prediction about a future readings that have a high empirical content that would not otherwise be expected to occur without the variable that is being purported, according to a theory, to influence the events in the natural world. And in this case, with climate change, as with carbon dioxide, it has been theorized to cause some sort of climate change in the climate over time. It's like that's a causal variable. So now, in order to falsify climate change, there needs to be some predictions about future readings with a high empirical content. That is something that you can verify by the senses. Some readings, or at least with some like scientific instrument, you can read with your senses. And specifically some specificity to it. Where are you getting that from climate change? Well, you're not. You're not getting any kind of predictions like that. Instead, what you do is hear from the mainstream media and all these talking heads that, after the fact of some climate events, they keep on just saying over and over like a broken record, climate change, climate change. No, there's flooding, climate change. There's drought, climate change. It doesn't matter. Whatever the event is, it's after it happens, you say, oh, that's a confirmation. But science is not supposed to work according to looking for confirmations. You're supposed to try to falsify your theory. And how do you falsify a theory? You do that by making a prediction, a future. In the future, what will happen due to your theory about this variable, in this case, climate change, carbon dioxide, and that this will happen specifically with some specificity with high empirical content. And if that does not happen, then you have to be honest and say, if you're an honest scientist, say, oh yeah, okay, if this does not happen, my theory has been falsified. Where are you hearing that from the climate change people? You're not. That's the problem. So what would be an example of that? Well, maybe you could say, like, well, this temperature will be at this buoy in the ocean, this specific buoy, at this time and date, will be at this degree. Like it'll be in states that be increased. That you would not expect it to be like that high on that date, based on the average over the past, looking back at the past, what the temperatures have been. And so, but this date or worse, it could be like several degrees warmer Celsius, for instance. And if it's not, well, then our theory has been falsified. Or you could say that, like, wind speed or something like that at this particular weather station into the future, this months or years in the future, it'll be this fast. Of course, you're not going to get that because, well, you can't predict the weather into the future long term with any reliability, and that's the same reason you can't falsify climate changes, because you cannot predict predict the weather. You can't. So how can you falsify the climate change theory if you cannot predict the weather far into the future? Well, you can't. That's the problem. So you cannot falsify the climate change theory. And if you cannot falsify the climate change theory, how can you consider it scientific? That's the thing. If you look back, the skeptics will often say the reason that things like the psychic phenomena, ghosts, and other paranormal phenomena are not scientific is because they rely on confirmations. Like psychic readings. People say, "Oh yes, my psychic is right because this and this and this." Well, the skepticals will say, "Well, you're just looking for confirmations. They're not being. You're not making any predictions based on. You say that the psychic says this into the future, and then into the future, if the psychic is wrong, then then my theory is by support of psychic phenomena is false." I'm not necessarily bashing psychic phenomena or any kind of other paranormal phenomena. I think that's kind of an interesting area, but I don't. Usually, it's not considered a scientific pursuit. They're not claiming to be a mainstream science, ghost hunters and such. It's an interesting area. It may have a lot of veracity to it, but it's not considered a scientific. So like ghost hunting, that's not considered a scientific pursuit by even most proponents of it. But it's not considered science. But of course, climate change proponents claim that their pursuit is the epitome of science, but they're not able. But still, they're not able to present any predictions that can be falsified. Just as ghost hunters cannot make any predictions that will, if they're proven wrong, if their predictions do not pan out, then they admit, oh yeah, the ghosts do not exist. If I don't see a ghost or have reading at this date and time. With my instruments, then yes, it's ghosts don't exist. I've been falsified. That's the same. That's the same thing with climate change. There's nobody saying, oh well, in this future date, this is going to happen, and if I'm this reading, wind speed, weather, temperature. If this does not happen, then I guess climate change is false. I admit it. You're not hearing that from the climate change people. Therefore, I think that the climate change is about as scientific as ghost hunting. But it's not a scientific endeavor at all. It is, but instead, I think it's it is essentially it is a conspiracy to push an agenda with where there's some ulterior motives of money and power. Like through the exchanges, like the climate tax credits and other carbon credits. That is the same sort of the banksters. They're trading in those. They're just making money hand over fist with those. It is a very lucrative enterprise for the bankster class, and it also gives a lot of excuses for those in power to have more power over the people, so that they have less ability to travel, potentially. So we have to be very vigilant in being skeptical of the motives behind this constant over and over this it's just like a Goebbels propaganda machine of pushing the climate change theory as though it was some kind of prima facie evident fact, when it is just a rather spurious theory that lacks scientific any kind of scientific strength to it, because due to the fact that it's there's no it is impossible to falsify it, and none of these proponents of climate change are presenting any kind of claims of any kind of predictions that can show it to be falsifiable, where they're going to admit, oh yeah, it's been refuted, it is a false theory. They're not doing that because they know it cannot be falsified. And the problem there is, because it cannot be falsified, because climate change cannot be falsified, the theory of climate change, because it cannot be falsified, it is not a scientific theory. And therefore it should be abandoned, or treated the same way as psychic readings, ghost hunting, and many other paranormal phenomena, which I find interesting. I find those phenomena interesting, and maybe have a lot of veracity to them, but I don't think I would not consider them to be scientific endeavors. Although maybe paranormal psychology that did have some elements to it when it was accepted into the mainstream psychology departments in mainstream universities back in, I think it reached the heights in like the late 70s, early 80s. But since then it's been I think it's kind of unfortunate that it's been abandoned. But I think that parapsychology, when that research was done, that had actually more scientific merit than today's climate change research at universities. Because at least with parapsychology, when that was around at the university level, at least they were actually had some rigor to it, where they were making predictions that could be proven false, where they're making predictions that said, oh yeah, this does not happen if we don't like one room somebody is sitting and in another room there's somebody else who's looking at a card and saying, well, what am I seeing? And another person is saying, oh, okay, you have a number 1 or 2 or on the card, something like that. And you can make some prediction. Well, if somebody has a psychic ability, then they'll be able to make a certain percentage of accurate results that are higher than mere chance. So that if they cannot be able to do that, then at least their ability at psychic, that subject's ability to do a psychic, like to be able to read the minds of the other person, that then has been to a degree falsified. So I think so maybe psychic phenomena that was done in the research done on psychic phenomena at the university level was more rigorous from a scientific standpoint of being falsifiable than the climate change theory, because the climate change theory, they're not making any predictions that could be refuted through empirical evidence into the future. Because of course, anybody can predict the results of a horse race after the race is finished. That's what they're doing with all this climate change rhetoric you're hearing on the mainstream media and these experts. You hear on the mainstream media, after an event happens or during it while it's happening, they say, "Oh, climate change, of course." It doesn't matter if it's too hot, too cold, too windy, too calm, drought, too dry, or too much rain, too little rain. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it's climate change. Of course, that's not how science is supposed to work. The surface of the Earth has always been a rather treacherous place. I mean, hostile environment. It's nice when it is pleasant, but throughout history, go look back at the Great Flood like around, not just from the Bible, but also from cultures around the planet that talked about a flood that happened about 12,000 years ago. But even if you look at Plato's Timaeus dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, that talks about not only the Great Flood that destroyed Atlantis, but they talk about also that's happened either floods or fire. So in other words, like either too much rain or drought, extreme droughts have destroyed civilizations many times in the past. It was not just this civilization and not just Atlantis before the Great Flood, but there's been many more civilizations that have been destroyed, largely destroyed, with few survivors, due to extreme climate events that have happened over and over again over the thousands and thousands of years, and it just keeps happening because, well, the surface of the Earth is a unpredictable and very often very hostile environment, and then we have not seen anything yet. I mean, in modern history of what the climate is capable of. It's just very variable, extremely variable. You don't know what's going to happen. Unfortunately, the Earth's surface and the climate can be extremely hostile at times. That's been shown over and over again through history, and you cannot predict it. And because you cannot predict it, over the long term, it is this climate change theory is complete nonsense from a scientific standpoint. And that's all I wanted to say for now. So if you're still watching, thanks for watching.